I think just from like being in the community of photographers on Instagram, you you get inspired by others, a lot. And then you go out and implement that, and then you find your own style that way.
Hello and welcome to the Adventure Labs podcast. My name is Connor Ricky. I am going to be your host today. If you're new here, the Adventure Labs podcast is all about connecting with fellow adventure creators and hearing their stories behind the photos and videos that they create. And yes, if you're watching the video version of this, I am reading right now. This podcast is available in video form on YouTube, on Spotify, Apple, pretty much anywhere you can find it. But yeah, this podcast is basically all about adventure creators and their stories behind what they're shooting. Now, content creation may look fun and easy from the outside, but as we all know, there's a lot of work that goes into it. In addition, as creators, we tend to be a little bit more reserved or introverted than other, say, professions. And my goal with this podcast is to give you access to the raw conversations between other creators so that you can be inspired to learn and take action, even from the comfort of your own home, or maybe your car where you're driving, or you're on the treadmill. You're going to get inspiration anywhere you are. Maybe you're editing photos. I don't know. That's up to you. But anyways, today on the podcast, we have a very, very special guest. He's my friend Mena Gobran. Now, Mena is a published commercial and travel photographer. He's captured some of the world's most epic landscapes, especially all over Southeast Asia. Not only is Mena an incredible photographer, but he's also an MRI tech by trade, which we'll talk about later in this podcast and how that's relevant. He's super passionate about what he does, and I definitely think that it shines through in today's podcast. By the end of this episode, you should be pretty inspired to take action on whatever it is that you're passionate about, photography or not, which Mena talks about in this episode. So without further ado, I'll stop rambling. I know you want to hear from Mena, so let's get in today's episode. All right, Mena, welcome to the Adventure Labs podcast. Super stoked to have you on here. Thanks for joining us. Your Instagram handle is at Mena_shoots, right?
Yep, with a Z.
Sweet, with a Z. I always just like to throw that out there right in the beginning so people can look you up and kind of check out your work before you start talking, get some context. So
Yeah.
Where are you at in the world right now, man?
Cool. First, just thanks for having me, man. It's pretty cool to get on your podcast. It's dope. But I'm currently in Santa Barbara, living the beach life.
Yep. Not a bad life to live down there right now. These
No,
crazy
man,
times.
it's a perfect place to be right now. So I'm feeling grateful to be down here.
Nice. Yeah, I'm stoked we could jump on and take this time to catch up, because I don't think we've talked, other than over Instagram for over a year. Like when did we meet up in SF that one time? That was like at
Yeah,
least
that was
a
like
couple years ago, maybe?
it was a year and like probably a year and a half, I think, because I left SF a year ago. So it was like a year and a half when we did the yerba mate stuff.
Yep, the
That
Guayaki
was
shoot.
cool, man. I still talk about that to people when like I think a friend of mine was asking me about doing some work with them, and I'm like, "Oh, I did a video with them because she's doing some work for them." I'm like, "Oh, I did a video with you guys with Adventure Labs for them." And then I
Nice.
went through your feed and I found the video and like showed it to
Nice.
them.
Probably pretty deep. Yeah, I remember it was like we had to make the most of it that day. I think it was super smoky. That was like during all those crazy wildfires in California.
Yeah, yeah.
I like look
We
back on
went
that
up to
footage and I'm
that.
like, man, middle of the day, like super foggy and like smoky, and it kind of
Yeah,
worked
it
though, because
was.
the smoke just looked like your typical Carl the Fog lingering in SF.
Yeah, that was a cool spot. It was my first time going up there too.
Oh,
What was it
really?
called? Yeah,
I didn't know
what
that.
was the name of that
Twin
spot?
Peaks.
Twin Peaks, yeah.
Twin Peaks.
That was
That's like
yeah, that was my first time up there.
nice. That's like
That
my
was
favorite
cool.
spot in SF. But before we digress too much here, let's get right into it. I kind of have a bunch of questions for you that I think the audience of Adventure Labs here will be pretty stoked on. And I know I already gave a background if you're watching this, but Mena's an incredible photographer, traveled the world. I feel like he's been to like every country or something. just next level stuff. So super excited to hear about kind of your story because I haven't really asked you about that ever. So I'm stoked to see kind of where your roots are with photography and how you got started and everything. So um, I guess let's just start off by maybe giving us a little bit of background on your photography career. Like what inspired you to get into it? Like how'd you get those gears turning?
Yeah, well, I think earlier at a younger age, I was into like tech. I love like technology and stuff and just cameras. So I bought my first camera like probably back in 2008, 2009. And I think it stemmed from my dad because when I was younger, he would like record all our family events. He'd like be the one that has like all our birthdays and everything recorded and like just documenting everything. So I think that's kind of where I got some of it too. But yeah, when I first got my camera, I would just like document things with my friends, like get-togethers and stuff. But then it really didn't hit till I started traveling. I think it was like 2012. I went to Thailand for the first time, and then that kind of changed my priorities, and like I really wanted to continued traveling. So when I came back home, I like shifted. I moved back home with my family just to save money so I can start traveling. And then as soon as I moved home, like things got better. Like I got a better job, worked less hours, and then I upgraded my camera, and then I got fully into it. Like I think moving home was a big aspect because I was living in North Hollywood before that, and then I would start to go out with friends, go to clubs, bars, and stuff. And I didn't have time to focus on like myself and what I enjoyed doing. So, um, traveling definitely after Thailand, and then I went back to Thailand, and then that's what stemmed my travel bug, and like I started like documenting my travels much more after that. And yeah, I did a lot of local travels back in that time too, and started photographing local spots like Sequoia and Yosemite, and I went up to Oregon, and yeah, that totally started the ball rolling then.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice, awesome. Yeah, I think a lot of people share that same story where when they kind of decide they want to get into, whether it's photography or videography, just any creative field, like moving home to save some money is like the move for a lot of people. Like I know, like we're super
yeah,
fortunate to have been able to do that because I know a lot of people that can't just move home, to save money.
yeah, exactly, man.
So super grateful for that. But I mean, that's an amazing way to get the ball rolling because when you're having to pay rent, every month,
Yeah,
that's like a huge chunk of change that you could either be using for travel or for investing in more camera gear. But it just starts with making that decision that you want to start to take things more seriously
yeah,
and go for it. But yeah, moving home is like an amazing way to start. So you started doing that in 2012. That's when you started traveling. You went to Thailand. That sparked your
yeah.
kind of flame for adventure and travel and photography and everything. I actually have a similar story. I went to Thailand when I graduated college, and that was like Thailand and Bali. Like that's what really sparked it for me as well.
Nice.
So I think Thailand's a pretty special place there. I would
Yeah, I
recommend
feel that
everyone
way,
to go
dude.
check it out. It's affordable. It's awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
I
but
call it the
so
doorway to Asia.
yeah, it is. It really is. It's easy to access. It's relatively. You can kind of just book a plane ticket there and show up and have a great time. You don't really have to like plan stuff out. It's
Yeah,
pretty easy access. But so
yep.
from there, you started taking it more seriously. You got inspired to travel. When did you start like really really getting into it? Was that 2012? Like since then you've been going hard on it, or talk to us a little
Um,
bit about that.
yeah, I think after that, I went to Thailand a couple times. Then I uh I started working because I'm an MRI tech by trade. So that's my kind of trade job. And then after I went to Thailand those few times, I met some people that inspired me to like leave my job and really go out for a while. Because before that, I was only going like 2 week vacations, like how everybody does it. So I didn't realize like, dude, I met people that were traveling for months at a time, years at a time. So I'm like, I want to experience this. I want to solo travel and get out there. So so that's why I came home, saved money, and I got a better job. And as soon as I worked for maybe a year and a half, and I saved enough money, I quit my job and I went
Mm,
out. I went for like I was gonna go for a year, but I ended up going for like 6, 7 months because my best friend was getting married, so I had to come back. But that was like the tipping point. As soon as I went out, I prepared my camera gear before I went. I had a drone. I
yep.
like I hit it up. I hit it pretty hard, and I went to Asia. So yeah, that's where I kind of it like spurred something in me to kind of like create, and like I did some barter deals here and there when I was traveling, like did some stuff for like tour companies or hostels, and had like free stay, and I did like a few videos. So that's kind of where it began from that
Right on. Yeah.
trip.
So I kind of want to go back to where you mentioned that, your actual day job, you're an MRI tech. I feel like
Yeah,
that could be a super unique way to fund your travels. Everyone talks about, like, working with brands to fund their travels,
yeah,
and do sponsored posts, and, like, work with hotels and all that stuff. But I feel like no one really talks about when they have an actual real full-time job that is actually funding their travels. So talk to us a little bit about how that lifestyle kind of works, because I know you get some time off, you work, and then you travel. Because I think
yeah,
a lot of people might be inspired by that, especially if you're listening and you're just graduating high school, or I mean even college, I guess, and you're trying to figure out your next move. That could be a good thing to
yeah.
consider, a job kind of like that, to be able to fund your travels.
Yeah, it's totally different than what you'd think. Like people are like, "Oh, damn, you're an MRI tech," they would never think that.
Yeah, I
But
had no idea. I was like, whoa, that's sick.
yeah, yeah, I mean, that's definitely how I fund my travels. Like, so the way I did it is after I quit my job and I went, like, I wanted to kind of be more serious with my photography. And but then I ended up coming back because of that wedding. And then when I came back, I was getting tons of emails about contract jobs, like travel MRI jobs. I don't know if you know, like travel nurses. There's
Yep.
like
Yep.
travel nurses, so it's very similar. So they pretty much have 13-week contracts around the United States. And I pretty much stuck to California and got a contract in Sacramento, which was my first contract. And I worked only like 3 months, and they pay very well. Like they give you like food and housing stipend, and I was able to save a lot of money in a short time. And then after that 2 months, I went and traveled for another 6 months. So it like
That's so
it snowballed
awesome.
after that. Yeah. So I was able to like make money. I have no overhead, so I don't have furniture. I don't have anything like that. I stay in a furnished place, and then once my contract's over, I I go and just travel again, focus on photography and stuff.
Dude,
So like
that's so
I've
rad.
been doing that. I've been doing it like that for the last 2.5, 3 years actually. So I'll
Nice.
work a contract and then I'll go travel. So my last contract was in San Francisco I kept extending it because I loved San Francisco. So I did like 3 months, but then I would stay another 3 months, stay another 3 months, and I did a year there. So I ended
Nice.
up like saving money, and then I went out again to travel after that.
How
So
long
yeah.
do you plan on doing that? Do you just indefinitely, like, I mean, that sounds like an awesome setup you have there. Like, work a
I
little bit,
mean,
travel a lot.
yeah, dude, like I really enjoy it, and that's the battle is like I'm trying to find that balance of doing that, but also creating a home base for myself because
Right.
I do want to have a home base. So right now, like contracts are with the COVID thing going on, um, they're cutting contracts because hospitals aren't getting a lot of patients. So right now it's pretty slow for contracts. So I'm gonna stay here in Santa Barbara for a little bit and just see how it plays out. But I'm kind of enjoying like the mellow life for a little bit. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
yeah,
especially after a bunch of travel, I'm sure.
yeah. I traveled. for a year last year, so it's uh it's nice to kind of just be in one place for a little bit and build a routine.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you shot some crazy stuff. For anyone listening, definitely check out Mina's Instagram. He's got some top tier
Thank,
some top tier shots. I always get stoked when you drop something.
thanks, man.
But that's
Appreciate
awesome,
it.
man. I want to shift gears a little bit from kind of your background. Now we've kind of understood how you got into it, how you can sort of afford the lifestyle that you live and all the travel. I kind of want to dive into your actual creative style, your style of shooting, how you've built those skills up. So if anyone listening is just getting out and starting out in photography and um, has plans to do what you do eventually, maybe they're still in high school, maybe you can get their gears turning by explaining that a little bit. So was there like a moment that you kind of figured out your creative style, or was it something that just evolved over time? Like, tell us a little bit about your style of shooting, and maybe like I think you're kind of mainly photography over video, but I think you've done some drone stuff. Talk
Yeah.
to us a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, I think totally it's about evolving. Like my style now is definitely a little different from a few years ago, and it
Mm-hmm.
just slowly changes, you know. I think just from like being in the community of photographers on Instagram, you you get inspired by others, you know, a lot. And then you go out and implement that, and then you find your own style that way, you know. And I think it's just by repetition, man. Like I just kept when I first started, I would take shots right outside in my neighborhood or like in nearby parks around where I lived in Southern California. And then I just go home and just edit, you know, like just tinkering around with Lightroom and like that's kind of how I learned, you know. And then I also used YouTube obviously to like learn the basics, but I think just getting out there and like trial and error, and that's how you find your style for the most part. But
Yeah,
yeah,
100%.
that's pretty much how it worked out for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
How would you kind of how would you describe your current style, I guess? If you could put that into words. I know it's like a
Oh man.
super hard thing to do, but
um, I think I enjoy more like simpler scenes more and more, you know, like
hmm,
as I'm evolving in my photography. Like I enjoy like I guess it's like the simplicity of things. So like negative space and like I used to really love leading lines. I would do like
mm-hmm.
a lot of leading. I kind of veered away from that a lot, but I think I'm becoming more of like a minimalist in my photos. That's definitely like something I noticed. But I always enjoy having a point of reference to where you can see the scale of the photo.
Mm-hmm.
It's something I know is consistent with my work. But it just changes, you know, as I go. I'm like, oh, I want to try this or I want to try that. But then you feel like constricted to your kind of style, which I don't like. So like I want to break out of that and just do different things more, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So that's something I definitely want to move towards.
I feel that. That's
Yeah.
cool. It sounds like your photography style is like meshing with your lifestyle, kind of like minimalist. You don't own like
Yeah.
furniture and like a bunch of stuff. Like everything you own is probably pretty valuable to you and serves a purpose. And it's funny how like
Exactly.
that's kind of like translated over to your like photographic style is like more like, less things in the actual image. It's like that's like
Yeah.
you gotta live your work. That's like full 360 there. That's
Yeah,
pretty
man,
sweet.
totally.
Right on. Well, I saw on your Instagram that you've been featured in some magazines and stuff. I kind of want to talk about like how that happened. First of all, congratulations. That's sick. Like
Thanks, man.
having your
Yeah.
photos printed in publications and like magazines
Yeah,
and
it's
books.
pretty
Like
crazy.
how did that come about? Like did you reach out to them or did they just sort of find you,
No,
or how's that work? I mean, when
I
you have good
think
work, people
they
see it, but
yeah, I honestly, I never reached out to anybody, but I think they pretty much find me off of Instagram or on my website, and they'll reach out to me. So like I never kind of pursued that part of it.
Mm-hmm.
It just came to me, you know. So, but it's pretty awesome that that happened. So like it's something that I would want to kind of get into, like keep it going and get into like higher end magazines. So that means I would have to kind of pursue it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
or like reach out with like, you know, the other magazines I've been featured in and stuff like that. But yeah,
Nice.
I'm pretty sure they found me off Instagram.
The gram. Nice. Do you find
Yeah.
that most you get most of your work or discoverability, I guess, through Instagram versus your website, or like what's the balance there?
Yeah, I honestly I think it's most from Instagram, which I'm trying to like Instagram is great, but I'm trying to find other ways to grow as a photographer because, you know,
Mm-hmm.
uh, like most photographers that work for a living, Instagram is just a small part of it, you know. They
Yep.
use their website a lot and like probably AdWords and stuff like that on their website, which I need to learn more about. But for the most part, for me, it's been using Instagram like to grow in that
Gotcha.
sense.
Right
Yeah.
on. Yeah, I see that like social media is sort of the top of funnel for people that are making a living off this stuff. It's like they build their
Yeah.
audience out and then they take people and put them on an email list or they send
Yeah.
them to their like, their free webinar, which then they pitch their course or something or their presets or their prints.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge misconception a ton of people have is like, I can just blow up on Instagram, work super, super hard, and then like I'm gonna make a ton of money. Like
Yeah.
you still have to know business and like network and have a good foundation there if you actually want to try and make a living off of it. Because that's like
Exactly.
speaking from personal experience, like just posting a ton to Instagram and like doing everything you can to improve your work, photos, videos, and it's
Yeah.
like people don't really like just find you. I know that's sort of, you say a lot of people have just found you, but when you're trying to like make a full-time living off of it, make enough money
Yeah.
to support
You
yourself
have
or a
to reach
family, like
out.
you got to hustle, like you got to make that happen. And then I feel like once you hit a certain point and you've got all your stuff and systems sort of set up, then it can kind of run for you like a machine. But
Okay.
what
Yeah.
people don't really like see is that grind work that a lot of people put in for years to like build the back end of their business. Like their Instagram is hella polished, like their feed is super
Yeah.
aesthetic and everything, but like their back end, like they got their websites dialed, they got all their like sales pages, their funnels, they have their
Yep.
ads, like you mentioned, the Google ads, you get their Facebook ads, Instagram, all that stuff. um, but I guess that kind of leads to my next question. So are you monetizing Instagram right now, or is it more just for kind of for fun, or do you have plans to in the future? I feel like I don't see you do a ton of brand deals, so I'm kind of curious to hear like what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, no, I'm not really monetizing much. I'm like selling my prints. I'm trying to get like I'm in touch with like a really cool print lab that I'm gonna be working with to do just custom aluminum prints and stuff. But
Sweet.
other than that, like that's kind of my that's like the hard part for me is the business side and like connecting with brands and
Mm,
doing that side of it. Like I said, I tend to fall back onto my MRI when I'm like needing funds, like which is it's a gift and a curse, you know. So I would love to get more into monetizing my audience and my Instagram, but for the most part, I just enjoy sharing photos, and it's more fun for me than anything, you know. So
mm-hmm.
that's definitely where I'm at right now with it. But it's like a battle for me. It's like, yeah, I wanna make it like more of like a career thing, but I do already kind of have a career, so it's like transitioning from that to photography full time is difficult for me. But I'm trying to make it happen.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's
Yeah,
awesome. I mean, either way is great. It's just like figuring out what works best for you. Like at the end of the day, like what do
exactly.
you
Yeah,
want? Like what, like, how do you want your quality of life to be? Because I've talked to a ton of creators that they've thought they've wanted that lifestyle because it looks so awesome on the gram and
Yeah,
everything, and then they pursue it and they're like, damn, this is a grind, like this is a ton of work.
yeah,
So I mean, I've seen a lot of people fall back on like other jobs and then continue to do photography for fun. Like sometimes when you take your passion and you want that to be your full-time thing,
exactly,
it kind of, it can, if you're not really protective over your time and your energy and everything, like it can become not fun anymore. Like I think a lot of creators have faced burnout,
exactly. That's
um
what I think about
because
it.
everyone gets into it because they, it's a hobby, like it's super fun, you love it, and then to think like, why am I burning out on this right now? Like why don't I like this anymore? And having that like self-awareness to take a step back and really like ask yourself if you're in it for the right reasons anymore.
Yeah,
Because that's for me, like if I work a little bit too much, like I don't, on the weekends, like I don't really want to touch my camera. I'm just like, I've been at it
yeah,
all week like shooting, like I just want to kind of disconnect from my camera, which is like weird because in the beginning when you're getting into it, the first like even year, couple of years, you're like super gung-ho about wanting to shoot every second, edit every
yeah,
second, but you got to be sort of protective of like, have a balance. I guess life's about balance, and it's the
yeah,
same here. Like you gotta decide for you if you want that balance or you want to go full 110% into it. um but yeah,
yeah.
man, I mean, have you experienced any form of like burnout on photography, or like have you had any experience any creative ruts or anything like that?
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I think I'm in a creative rut at the moment, which is like, I mean, it's not surprising with everything going on. And just like going from traveling for a year and like shooting constantly to like
Yeah.
chilling now, like I'm enjoying this kind of like downtime, but I'm like preparing to like focus and hone in my creative side on like the next thing, which is
Mm-hmm.
more locally and like what I want to shoot here. Maybe do some like surfing and shoot surfing or like some diving and like really
Sick.
focus on what I enjoy doing and then have photography kind of come after, So like I think that's what I'm learning, not to just go and shoot every day and go and
Mm-hmm.
shoot constantly. It's like do what you enjoy, like find things you really enjoy doing and kind of get into that community and then photography will like join that, and like you can supplement with photography. So it's totally been an issue with the burnout. And like I see friends of mine that you know they they work with brands constantly and they make a living off of it, which is amazing, it's really inspiring. But then I see that they do get burned out and it's like you're not really enjoying photography, you're just doing it to like, to make money, which is like it's I don't knock them for it because it's like their thing, that's how you're making a living. So it's amazing, but I think for me it's like I don't want to get to that point with
Mm-hmm.
photography. I want to keep it. It's like a sacred, special thing, like that I really enjoy doing. So I don't want to taint it by getting to that, especially since I have a career. So it's like that's yeah, that's how I feel about it for sure.
That's awesome. I think that's really refreshing to hear because you get hit with ads all over Instagram. That's just like,
Yeah,
you want to
I
live
don't
this
post
lifestyle I
any.
live. Look at me on top of a hut in Belize. Like I got all these chicks. Like this is the like most badass lifestyle ever. And then they like hit pause and then they're like, all right, I gotta do that again. Like it's just, it can be super misleading. Like so I
Totally,
think that's a
man.
really
Yeah,
refreshing perspective to hear. And I think that's really great advice, what you said about just pursuing the things you're passionate about, the things you enjoy, and then letting
yeah.
photography follow, kind
Just
of come
happen. Yeah,
naturally, just come. Yeah, because then you're not forcing anything. Like you're truly passionate about the subject you're photographing, and when you can understand like that feeling of like surfing or like diving or cliff jumping or whatever it is, like you can capture, because that's what photography is, like capturing a moment. You can
yeah,
capture that moment so much better, and then you can evoke emotions with your work because you actually are feeling those emotions. You're not just like,
Yeah.
I just want to take a sick picture and post it on Instagram and have it blow up. Like you
Yeah.
actually have, there's like a story behind it. There's an emotion, a feeling behind it. And if you're feeling that, other people will too. So I
Exactly.
think
Yeah.
that's really great
That's where I
advice.
want to evolve to that for sure.
Dude, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah, and I like I haven't I've
You're
had that
I'm fired
urge, you
up.
know.
Not
Thanks.
to interrupt here, but dude, you're getting me, I'm getting inspired. Like I'm fired
Yeah,
up.
I'm learning just talking to you right now. Like, so I'm still like learning every day about what I enjoy shooting or what I enjoy doing. So it's like it's refreshing to like talk to somebody about it that has the same mindset. But yeah, like I've always had like an urge, like, oh, these brands are, I get contacted by brands, oh, do you want to post this for me and I'll pay you this or whatever. It's like, no, I'm not just gonna post random shit on my page just
Right.
to get like a few bucks. Like that's not where what I want. I don't want to be just like a salesman, you know? So that's why I don't post many brands on, I don't post any, I think, on my feed, like at least in the last, in the last few months, I haven't done any of that. I'll do like hotels and stuff, like I said, when I would travel because
Mm-hmm.
I would do barter deals and stuff. But yeah, it's like it's something I battled a lot with. It's like, do I work with this brand? Do I post their stuff? Like I'm very like selective, of who
Mm-hmm.
I work with. It's because like I have to really enjoy what it is that I'm like telling my community about. So it's uh it's like that fine line, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, like the posts you have done with the hotels you've stayed at and stuff, like I would have never even known those were like barter deals. Like I genuinely enjoy that content. Like that's just more content for you to share with people. Like you get
Yeah.
access to sick hotels and like you just get to do more of what you want to do. So it aligns perfectly with that. And like, yeah, in return, like I couldn't tell, like I can't tell those are like ads or whatever. I don't know if
Yeah.
you would consider a barter deal like an ad, but like I get stoked when you post like super sick,
No, it's fun.
hotels or you're chilling in a hammock, like with a book or laptop or something somewhere like epic. Like I love
Yeah.
seeing that. So I think that's working
Yeah.
out really well for you.
Yeah,
But
totally. And I also been doing aside from that, I do stuff off Instagram. So I'll give them like commercial photos sometimes, you know? So just like give them photos of their resort, their rooms and stuff like that in exchange. So sometimes it won't even be on Instagram, you know. So it's like both of those things.
nice. Instagram is just kind
Yeah.
of a bonus. Like you get, they're getting that social reach. They're not just
Yeah,
getting the photos.
exactly.
You're taking it one step further and saying,
Yeah,
not only can I take these sick photos that you're going to use for marketing and whatnot, but you're also getting reach and brand awareness and all that stuff
yeah,
through my Instagram, which I think
exactly.
is a huge value in growing an audience. When you have an audience, you have leverage to do a lot more. But again, circling back, I don't think that should be your like number one focus. Cause if it is, you're just going to come off as inauthentic and
Yeah,
people can sniff that out real easily. Like if you're
yeah,
like
totally.
working with some brand that doesn't really align with your own brand, like you can tell when people are doing that. Like you might,
Yeah,
if they're your homie, like you support them, but you can tell that when they're like, oh, this is the sickest like pair of pants I've ever worn. Like
yeah,
you can kind of tell. But
yeah, totally.
well, this has been an epic conversation. I've really
Yeah, man.
enjoyed getting to learn about kind of your creative process, and I'm the same way. Like it's super refreshing to vocalize a lot of thoughts with like-minded people, especially right
Yeah,
now during these quarantine times. We spend a lot of time indoors and by ourselves, and I think it's super important to just keep catching up with your friends and other like-minded people, and it kind of
totally.
keeps you sane and making forward progress in your goals and creative endeavors. But
Yeah.
before we go here and wrap up, I really am curious, what has been the like craziest, sickest like adventure you've been on, like the coolest place you've traveled, like something, either something cool or like crazy, like insane, like you almost died. Like I'm just like you. I'm sure you've got a lot of
Oh
sick
man.
experiences under your belt. You've been to India a bunch of times, and
Well, yeah, man. Oh, India was another was a crazy adventure in itself. But I think the most memorable adventure I've had to be buying motorcycles in Vietnam and riding around the country for like a month and a half. That was that was amazing, and it was that, and I was with my cousins, which I'm really close with. They're the guys that I went to Thailand the first time, and that made it even sweeter. That was just like one of the most amazing adventures, like just riding in the mountains of Vietnam, getting lost, like these small going through these small villages, and the Vietnamese people up there, they would just like invite you into their
Mhm.
homes, and like serve you, give you beer and food, and like
That's
I
so
just
sick.
felt like I was fully immersed into that country, traveling that way, just on my own motorcycle. It was like the first motorcycle I ever bought. Like, it was only like 200 bucks, and like you
That's so
just go,
sick,
man. We just went, and it was just like so like invigorating, and we just felt so free, like I haven't had an adventure like that. So that was like that solidified as my top adventure for
dude. That
sure,
sounds like a blast.
man.
Just ripping around
Once
on
in a
scooters,
lifetime.
motorcycles,
They were like
man.
real motorcycles though. They
For
were like
200 bucks,
legit.
that's a
Yeah,
steal. That's awesome,
legit motorcycle, like 150 cc's, which is not crazy, but like they're light, and they were pretty cool, man.
dude.
Other than breaking down randomly, like,
That's
but
part of
then
it.
you break down and people would help you. It
Mm-hmm.
was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all a part of it. Yeah, man. Just like that's just some true like living in the moment. Like you don't know where you're going. You don't know why you're
No,
going there.
you
You're
don't
just like
plan anything.
living like you're just living life. Like that's what life's
Yeah.
all about. Like we get so like in our heads, like in our day-to-day society and work and all that stuff and responsibilities, but dude, when you can get out there and reset like that, like
Yeah.
that's because when I went out to Bali, like that's how it felt too. We didn't do anything like as sendy as that, but just like ripping around, like you wake up, you could go anywhere on your scooter, you ride for 2 hours, and you're just like,
Yeah.
oh, like having a blast ripping around, like dude, you're not thinking about
Yeah,
anything
man.
else but that moment, and then everything you're seeing, and you want to capture everything, and it's just such an awesome feeling.
Absolutely.
Oh, I miss traveling.
Yeah, me too,
Hopefully
man.
we can. I think it's going to be a little while until we can go international for sure.
Yeah, I know. But maybe it's good for the moment to kind of sit back and reflect on all these moments you've had, and just be kind of appreciative and grateful that you got to experience those things. So
Yeah, absolutely.
if,
Yeah,
if
sometimes when you're just going at it so fast, like you kind of appreciate the photos you're taking a little bit less, and then like
yeah,
something like this
like
happens, and you're
on to the next kind
on
of
to the
thing.
next. Like the photos
Yeah.
just get thrown in like a hard drive and like put away or like in Dropbox or whatever. But then like
Yeah.
you sit back and reflect, and you're just like, holy, like shit, like
What did I
I've done
just
some
do?
crazy stuff. And like in the
Yeah.
moment, I was so blinded by just like adventure, and like it didn't seem like that big of a deal, but like that was
Yeah.
wild, dude. Like how many people can say they've done that? So that's a
Yeah,
good point.
exactly.
Like having some time to like really reflect and have gratitude, I guess, for the experiences that you've had. That's
Absolutely,
awesome.
man.
Well, one last final thing here, some parting words. Uh, is there any piece of advice that you could give the Adventure Labs community? Like, you could say anything. It could be about whatever you want, like some sort of like takeaway or advice for someone who might be inspired by your work and they want to do something similar. Just anything, man. I'll leave it up to you. I'll open the table here. Like anything you want. I know I'm
Alright.
putting you on the spot, but like I like to ask this to
No,
everyone
man.
and see what answers come up.
I'd say just kind of when it comes to your passion, don't be like hesitant on discovering it. Like just try a bunch of things when you're younger. Try as many things as possible, And that's how you can find like what you truly enjoy, you know? Like don't just go for one thing right away just because it looks cool. Just I recommend like trying so many new things, and like that's how you'll find something that you truly love and you can grow in that sense. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing
I
advice.
think
That's great.
trying new things like at an early age is super important.
Nice. So kind of don't
Yeah.
overthink things really. Just if you have like a
Yeah.
gut feeling that you're enjoying something, just like chase
Yeah.
that. Keep
Just
doing that just
get
for the
out
sake of
there
doing
and
it.
like,
Like, huh,
yeah, I think just getting out there and just fucking up, just like don't worry about screwing up, and that's how you'll find what you truly love, you know?
absolutely. Those are some wise
Yeah.
words. Those are some wise words right there from Mina himself. Well, that's awesome, dude. Thanks so much again for hopping on and
Dude,
hanging
I
out. I've really
appreciate you
enjoyed it
asking
so
these
much, dude.
questions, man. I
Yeah,
appreciate
no
you
worries.
asking these questions. This is like I'm learning too, just talking to you. So it's
That's
been
great. Yeah,
awesome.
I think I hope some people get value out of it, and I mean that's the goal of the podcast is to just if we can
Yeah,
inspire one person that's might be on the edge of pursuing. I mean, I was gonna say photography, but with what you're saying, like your passions in general, like if we can
yeah,
get someone to go over the edge and do that, like we've done our job there. So that's super
yeah,
sick.
man.
But all right, so Mina shoots on Instagram at Mena MENA underscore shoots with a Z at the end.
Yep.
That's his handle. That's where you can find his stuff, and then probably hit his website and buy some prints and all that stuff. But dude, I
Sweet,
definitely
man.
want to buy one of your prints on that note. Get it hung up in
Yeah,
the
man. Just
office, dude. Like
I could
give
do a
some
custom print with this lab. Just hit me up and I'll make it happen.
sweet. Well, right on, man. Cheers. Wow, what an amazing podcast with Mina. So much value dropped there. He's such a genuine, authentic dude, and that definitely came across. I love chatting with Mina whenever I get the chance. If you enjoyed this week's podcast, make sure you consider hitting that little subscribe button so you get notified every week when we post a podcast, your little zip of weekly inspiration to do the things you're passionate about, create better content, etc. We also have a free weekly newsletter just for outdoor and adventure creators where you will learn things like growing an audience and the business side of things like how to market yourself as a creator and make money doing the things you're passionate about. If you want to get on that newsletter, head to adventurelabs.co, not .com, but .co, adventurelabs.co/creator newsletter to sign up for that. Remember, keep creating, keep enjoying the process. Don't give up, guys. Keep going, keep shooting. Enjoy the entire process of it. Stay passionate. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.